What's the most absurd medical bill you have ever received? That's the question tweeted by Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders, who also happens to be the man behind Medicare for All. His question received more than 12,000 responses, which isn't shocking considering America's broken healthcare system. While reading through the devastating responses, I came across a reply from a woman named Aimee Stirling Casil, who described an outrageous bill she received following the death of her son. Casil wrote, $20,000 after my baby Anthony died at Tarzana Medical Center, which was 15 minutes farther than the hospital where he was born, where we were insured, Kaiser. He choked on his formula and was unconscious, then died. Oftentimes when I have guests on this show, I invite authors, members of the media, or experts on a particular topic I want to explore. But today, I felt that it was important to hear from someone who has experienced the oftentimes deadly flaws of America's healthcare system. Joining me now is Aimee Stirling Casil, a professional sci-fi and nonfiction writer and teacher who is kind enough to share her story with us. Aimee, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Anna. Thank you very much. It's a lot. It's kind of hard for me to talk about it, but I want people to understand what happened and think about for the future. It's one of the reasons why I support Bernie Sanders, and I was really excited to see this featured on his Twitter.
Absolutely. I mean, you're so courageous and brave for sharing your story. I think that there are so many Americans that hear your story and what you went through really does resonate with them. So, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you, what happened? What happened on the day that your son passed away?
Well, it was my second. He had been born with Down syndrome, and he was going to need a lot of extra help and care. So I'm doing what I was doing before he was born. I wanted to be a writer and a teacher, and previously I'd been an executive. I went back into that line of work to provide for him. So it was my second day of work. His dad was taking care of him. It was extremely rainy. It was very hard for me to get home timely. So I last talked to his father 20 minutes before I got home. And when I got home, his dad had given him his bottle and put him down. And my daughter and I went into the bedroom, and my daughter is the one who found him first. And she handed him to me. And so we called 911, we called the ambulance. He wasn't breathing. And I gave him CPR, and I'm sorry, Anna, it's really hard to talk about.
No, I totally understand, and take all the time that you need. I was reading your Medium post about what happened, and in it you talked about how long it took for the paramedics to get to you.
Right.
Why was that?
They just didn't know where to go. I mean, we lived in Woodland Hills, which is a hilly, wooded area. They didn't know where to go, so they went up the wrong street. We could see their lights, we could see the ambulance, but they couldn't get to our house. So they had to go all the way back down, come back again, and then it took another 15 minutes to get him to the hospital, which was much farther than our hospital. And I never got a good answer as to why they had to go to Tarzana Medical Center instead of Kaiser Hospital in Woodland Hills, which was only 5 minutes away. I never got a good answer about that.
They still won't tell you why they made that decision.
No, I never did. I mean, it was like the city contracts with them and they have to go there, and that was what I was told. So.
Jeez. So once your son is finally at the hospital, what happens next?
They worked on him for about an hour and a half and to try to revive him, but it was too late. He had been unconscious for too long and lost oxygen to his brain, and he was declared dead after about 90 minutes, and then they let me hold him. So I held him for about an hour.
So
that's what happened.
Your response to the question Bernie Sanders asked on Twitter, specified that you received a $20,000 bill, a $20,000 bill. So how did they justify that? What was behind the bill, and what happened after?
I don't mean to laugh. It's not funny. It was really unfunny when I got the bill. Just every single care that he was provided, from the ambulance to the care he received at the hospital, which I don't want to fault them. They did their best to save his life, and it just didn't work. It was just a huge list of stuff. I mean, like anesthesia. I mean, things that I had no idea what they were. So I began to pay it off, and then I thought, I'm never going to be able to pay this off. Not to mention, I didn't lose my job. I continued to work at my job and tried to recover. There's a lot more to the story. If you had actually read my Medium story, I guess you know that the hospital bill was only one of many negative things that happened. So anyway, this big bill came and I started paying it, and I finally thought, I've got to do something. So I wrote a letter to the hospital explaining what I just said to you, that we were Kaiser members. Kaiser had actually, in fact, paid about $10,000, and the bill that I got was $20,000 in addition to what my insurance had already paid. And then so I wrote a letter, and I want to say, to the credit of Tarzana Medical Center, they forgave the debt. They did.
Good. Well,
Everybody can't do that, though.
Right, exactly. There's so many Americans who go bankrupt, including senior citizens, because of their medical bills. And I'm glad that Tarzana did the right thing and they canceled your bill. But that doesn't solve a much broader issue that we have in America with our healthcare system. So this debate rages on. We have truly one candidate who has not only written this Medicare for All bill, but will aggressively fight for it. And then there are other candidates who either say that they support Medicare for All but are open to other options. And then you have some of the more centrist Democrats who say, no, Medicare for All doesn't make sense. We might maybe push for a public option. So I kind of wanted to talk about the policy with you a little bit. Sure. You say you're a supporter of Medicare for All. Are you at all open to proposals for a public option as opposed to a single payer healthcare system?
I don't know enough about it to say yes or no, but if it's going to continue the way it is right now, my answer to that is, Anna, is going to be no. It has to be Medicare for All, because the way it is right now, it's worse than it was when Anthony died. I have no idea how some people are able to pay these bills. They're horrible. So, frankly, Bernie's proposal is the only one that makes sense to me, that looks like it'll help people. And I do a lot of business in Canada. So if there's a proposal similar to what Canada has, I think that could work if that's being presented as an alternative. But it seems to me that we hear the same ridiculous statements over and over again, like, well, if we have Medicare for All, you can't see your doctor. Or, if we have Medicare for All, you'll never, see the doctor again. And don't you love your health insurance? And Bernie's right, nobody does. I mean, I like Kaiser, that's been my medical plan, but it's socialized medicine. People have made fun of Kaiser for years for being socialized medicine. So, I really think we have to do something. Bernie's plan seems like the best right now.
As you're talking about this incredibly important policy, I can't help but think about a comment that I saw on MSNBC just a few days ago. There was a woman who was claiming that, anyone who supports Elizabeth Warren over Bernie Sanders is allowing their sexism to show. And as a woman, you're giving a very specific or citing a very specific policy to show your support for Bernie Sanders. Already this election has gotten so incredibly divisive and ugly. I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that. Have you already made up your mind over who you're going to support? Is it Bernie Sanders? And if so, how do you respond to the critics who say, well, it's sexism if you're not considering Elizabeth Warren?
My life is so far from Elizabeth Warren that I think it's not even appropriate for anyone to tell me that I have to support one candidate over another just because of the gender. I am absolutely a Bernie Sanders supporter, but I have to be honest, I left the Democrat Party in 2016 and joined the Green Party because I had always felt their policies reflected my attitudes and beliefs best, but I didn't want to make that change. I thought, no, that's going too far, whatever. Well, now I'm a Green Party member and I'm supporting Bernie Sanders. And if Bernie is not the nominee of the Democratic Party, then I'm going to vote for the Green Party just the way I did in 2016. And that was a female, Jill Stein. So I voted for Dr. Stein in 2016 and I was glad to do so.
Aimee, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to share your story with us. I'm so grateful, and if we just band together and keep fighting, hopefully we fix this broken healthcare system in America. And I think you're absolutely right about Bernie. I think that his proposal is the only proposal that really makes sense. And single payer is what we need in this country. anything else can easily be rolled back. Anything else can be defunded, deregulated. And so again, thank you so much.
Or taken advantage of. Thank you so much, Anna.
Did you know that TYT Network is now available on YouTube's new streaming platform, YouTube TV? Get access to full TYT episodes and exclusive shows by signing up for YouTube TV today. All new subscribers get a 7-day free trial, so head over to youtube.tv and search for the TYT Network channel.